A recession is inevitable at some point.
This is awful. A lot of media and influencers have made terrible, just absolutely terrible predictions about a recession, about interest rates, and about a housing price crash. I'll discuss how and why they all went so horribly wrong, why they're doing it to you, and what you can learn from it to take into the future and prosper. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold, Get Rich Education founder, Forbes Real Estate Council member, best-selling author, and longtime real estate investor. Last year, a majority of prognosticators firmly forecast that we would have 6 or 8 Fed interest rate cuts this year. They were wrong. It looks like we'll only have 1 to 3 of them because it took a long time to rein in inflation. Then there's the 2023 recession that never happened. In a moment, I'll show you some just absolutely damning evidence of 2 different respected publications that got this terribly wrong. But first, here's what Elon Musk had to say about an upcoming recession that didn't happen, and then what former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers had to say. Both men spoke about this back in June of 2022.
A recession is inevitable at some point. As to whether there is a recession in the near term, I think that is more likely than not. It certainly isn't. It's not a certainty, but it appears more likely than not.
Is a recession, a mild one, necessary in order to tame inflation? Can inflation at this point be tamed without triggering a recession?
I don't think there are historical precedents for inflation at the rate we now have it coming down to the target the Fed has set of 2% without a recession.
All right, so Musk and Summers stating that an imminent recession is likely, though they did not say certain, although the recession didn't happen. But take a look at this. It's embarrassing. Bloomberg and The Economist actually published these ignominious headlines in the fall of 2022. First, Bloomberg published forecast for U.S. recession within a year hits 100% in blow to Biden. 100% leaves no room for anything else to happen. A recession needed to happen by fall of 2023 for that to come true. It did not. They were wrong. Then The Economist published why a global recession is inevitable in 2023. Totally wrong too. What's remarkable here about America staving off a recession is the fact that merely predicting one often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's because recession forecast headlines can spook employers from making new hires. It can therefore slow down manufacturing, disillusion banks from extending loans, and disillusion real estate investors from expanding their portfolios and growing. Well, the economy grew anyway. It shook off COVID, wars, and this self-fulfilling recession prophecy. And by the way, though it's become more fuzzy, the classic definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of contracting gross domestic product, falling output. And recessions, they are just a normal part of the business cycle happening every 5 years on average. So of course we're going to have one sometime again. In a recession, real estate values rise more often than fall. I may very well produce a video for you on that topic here in the future, recessions in real estate. But besides the farcical prognostications about myriad interest rate cuts and a definite, quote-unquote, definite 2023 recession, there's a third forecast that so many got wrong, and this is closer to our real estate world. Dreadfully bad housing price crash predictions. And this facet of this latest, set of doomsday scenarios and financial Armageddon threats really ramped up from 2021 until today. I mean, all the awful guidance that warned you not to buy a home in 2021? Think about how that did such a disservice to you that, in fact, if you had listened to it and postponed buying a home, your home price went up 40% and your mortgage rate tripled on you. Just devastating for someone that wanted to buy a home and thought that they should wait. Even a global pandemic, new wars, and a tripling of mortgage rates couldn't stop the housing price and rent surge. Many people just couldn't see that prices would be kept afloat due to really three big reasons. Number one, an ongoing housing shortage. Number two, government stimulus programs, including mortgage loan forbearance. Remember that? I mean, gosh, the government won't let people lose homes en masse anymore. And then thirdly, deep homeowner equity cushions where borrowers are incentivized to make payments and won't walk away from both a roof over their head and all that equity that they have inside the home. I mean, especially in a housing shortage where they would have nowhere else to go in some cases. I never talked about any decline in prices. In fact, here I am on television in November of 2021, amidst some torrid home price appreciation that we had already experienced. We were up nearly 20% year over year at that point, and people thought things were going to come down. I explained that home prices would keep appreciating, but that the rate of appreciation would slow down.
Keith, from your analysis and looking at today's data and your analysis up until today, is there any reason to think that house prices, this price appreciation, could slow down over the next 12 months or even decrease in price? Any reason to think that?
I think it's likely that home price appreciation will continue, but the rate of appreciation will slow down. Well, major media and YouTubers notoriously use these woe-begone housing crash headlines as clickbait, and some of the rationale behind it is dreadful. Like, what goes up must come down. That is not sound reasoning. In real estate, it definitely does not always go up, but what goes up usually keeps going up. In fact, take a quick look here. This is the national home price appreciation rate every year since 1942, basically since World War II. So over the last 83 years, home prices fell just 6 of those 83 years. Those were mostly focused around the global financial crisis. So what can be learned from doomsday headlines and apocalyptic predictions, many of which are flat out wrong? Own lots of assets. Even though it isn't morally redeeming, in my opinion, the government will often jump in to save the asset owners. Yes, gains get privatized and losses get subsidized. And what about presidential election years? Well, when it comes to that, it's better to look at history than have a hunch. In presidential election years, historically, the slow-moving real estate market is barely affected. Per Case-Shiller, since 1987, home prices are up about 4.8% in election years, 4.4% in non-election years. Stocks are more substantially affected, but stocks usually bounce back once a presidential victor is declared. Okay, but really, well, who cares about wrong predictions anyway? Like, why does this all matter? Well, first, people become misinformed and waste their time. Also, no one actually loses money on dismal economic predictions, but damage is done when investors don't act because they didn't get the gain that they should have had. And collectively, all these faulty economic predictions, rate cuts, recession, and a housing price crash, I mean, if you bundle those all up, it could be as bad as maybe one doomsday prediction about other dire things that never came true, like worldwide starvation, the Maya apocalypse, how about the Y2K bug, acid rain, that the internet is just a fad, World War III, robots overtaking humans by now, or running out of crude oil. We're definitely supposed to have jetpacks and flying cars by now. But yet, did anyone have the clairvoyance to predict the stock market crash of 1929, or September 11th's terrorist attacks, or Trump's 2016 presidency, Bitcoin to 70K, the coronavirus? No, no one had that. The bottom line here is that no one knows the future. Approach investing with calm confidence. Control what you can. Maintain equanimity. Add good properties. Raise rent. Reduce expenses. create leverage and expect inflation, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Like I've said for years, the only housing crash is a housing supply crash. It's bad because as prices soar, it creates terrible societal dislocations like a surging homelessness rate. Lean into this video that I recently shot for you. It's the latest on the housing shortage crisis right here.